Today, the goal of this presentation, we are doing a financial inclusion breakdown between Bancorp and Banco Santander, and the goal of this presentation is to give you an evidence-based recommendation as to which really bank you guys should invest in based off our top 3 financial inclusion practices that we are going to choose for you guys today and break down. And this presentation is by
David Watkinson,
Anastasio Saganos,
Matthew Levy,
and John Schreiner.
So the first financial inclusion practice that we want to take a look at today is providing financial backing to minority-owned businesses. And what Banco Santander is doing in this area is they provided $3 million for CDFIs, minority-led CDFIs over a 3-year period. And CDFIs are financial institutions that focus on providing affordable loans to disadvantaged individuals. They've selected 10, and each will receive $100,000 a year for the 3 years of the program. The goal of this is to provide financial support to address a lack of capital and resources in low-income communities and communities of color. They also participated in the PPP loans program, but have now come under scrutiny because their practices made it very difficult for small businesses to actually apply and get those loans. They spend a lot more time focusing on their larger clients.
Financial inclusion practice, U.S. Bancorp focused on a much more specific group of people. They created a $25 million micro business fund focused on businesses owned by women of color. It will also provide $20 million in debt capital to Black-led and women-focused community development financial institutions. Also, using an intermediary community development entity, CDE model, to create opportunities for Black-led CDFIs and CDEs to earn revenue, build experience, and receive their own new markets tax credit allocation. Further, U.S. Bancorp would participate in the PPP Paycheck Protection Program. They helped nearly process 11,600 PPP loans in Colorado as of July 1st, 2021. That actually placed them in tier 1 of all Colorado banks. And also in Minnesota, the U.S. Bank had the highest participation in traditional SBA-backed loan programs for national lenders in the district based on the number of SBA-approved loans from July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021. So during a big crisis, U.S. Bancorp was there to help. So overall, with this financial inclusion practices, they helped a small group of people, and they also help through the Paycheck Protection Program, people that struggled with the COVID-19, and specifically businesses with the COVID-19 pandemic.
The second financial inclusion practice that was used as a comparison between U.S. Bancorp and Banco Santander was the commitment to minority communities and affordable housing. For Banco Santander, their Inclusive Communities Plan is used to increase lending and community development in underserved areas that would otherwise be unable to receive sufficient funding to increase their development of their community. This $11 billion plan, which increases their Community Reinvestment Act by 50%, is partnered with the National Community Reinvestment Coalition to use $9.1 billion for lending to the community. Of the $9.1 billion allocated, there is a lending of mortgage loans that will directly help low to middle income families pay off their mortgage, as well small business lending to assist those businesses in their struggles, and finally community lending for general use. In addition to all of this, 10 new Santander branches open in minority communities that will allow them to be able to have easy and affordable access to basic financial services that are otherwise not able to be found in the communities that they are in.
In regards to affordable housing commitment to minority communities with Bancorp, a prime example is the Arcade, which is a historic building in St. Louis, which was a challenging project due to its size, deteriorating condition, and amount of investment required. The United States Bancorp invested $85 million of the total $118 million renovation costs, which combine of lending low-income housing and new market tax credits, as well as federal and state historic tax credits. Completed in 2015, the Arcade is now a multi-purpose historic building that offers 182 housing units, with 70% being designated as affordable. Helping minority communities, the U.S. Bank has offered 8 additional paid time off volunteer hours to their employees on top of the previous 16 offered annually after the George Floyd incident, where the employees have served nearly 16,000 hours of community service since April. The U.S. Bank has also made a $1 million investment into the Chicago Neighborhood Initiatives and commitment to the Pullman community in Chicago, which made it the city's fastest growing community for new jobs. In partnership with the University of Chicago Booth School of Business, use this opportunity to create a case study to help understand the intricacies and nuances of building stronger communities.
The third and final financial inclusion practice that both banks take part in is the education of minority communities on financial practices and internal education on diversity, inclusion, and equitable practices. Finally, for Banco Santander, their website program Tuyo is a platform on which users in underserved communities in Mexico have the ability to access financial literacy education. The people in these communities who are not interested in typical financial services that are offered in their communities have the opportunity to learn more about financial literacy through the interactive education Tuyo has to offer. So far, over 1.2 million people have used the program to learn how to take out a loan, how to save, budgeting, what debt is, and how to maintain financial health. This program can be completed in either English or Spanish so that the user has the option to learn in their more natural language, which will be more comfortable for them to learn. Furthermore, there are separate learning options for users to choose from. They can choose between programs focused on entrepreneurs, or for adults, they can have their children take the program, which will allow them to get basic understanding that they can use throughout the rest of their lives.
In regards to the commitment to education of minority communities and financial practices and DEI in the company, the U.S. Bank Corp's DREAM initiative, which stands for Delivering Resources that Enable Access to Mortgages through advancing Black homeownership and urbanization in the mortgage community through their adult financial education programs, youth outreach, and mortgage loan officer development program. They also invested in Goal Center, a finance app that is for kids and families that provides education, experience of financial literacy, mainly to underprivileged communities, used for everyday business offerings, financial education, and scholarship program. One of the first corporations to invest in Goal Center. They also launched their financial wellness program with Operation Hope in Aurora, Colorado, and the Pullman community in Chicago. And so enter into the Bureau of Fiscal Service Mentor Protege program in 2019, paired with First Independence Bank, a Black-owned community bank in Detroit. U.S. Bank's mentorship helps them develop assistance and access to capital, which then in turn helps them help other Black-owned businesses in Detroit. They also invest in the Courageous Conversation series led by U.S. Bank Chief Diversity Officer Greg Cunningham, which helps explain DEI to their employees, their commitment to it, why it's important, and the risks of not having DEI.
This brings us to our evidence-based recommendation, and it goes in favor of U.S. Bancorp. When the two banks were put head to head and compared on each of our financial inclusion practices, U.S. Bancorp won out more times than Banco Santander did. So for our first financial inclusion practice, U.S. Bancorp, we decided, provides more money to programs that support minority-owned businesses than Banco Santander. And the numbers support this, $25 million versus $3 million for contributions to CDFIs. And just on a qualitative side, the way that each bank handled the PPP loans program, U.S. Bancorp did so honestly and actually helped their smaller clients. But on the second financial inclusion practice, we believe Banco Santander has had a bigger impact. They contribute more money to programs that will help with affordable housing in underserved communities than U.S. Bancorp does. And while the programs, there's a more vast array of programs provided by U.S. Bancorp, Banco Santander's programs have a lot more money behind them. They have that $4 billion in mortgages to low-income persons, and that's just a part of their $9 billion program to address this area. That, along with opening 10 new branches in low-income areas, is just a more genuine and more impactful effort than that by US Bancorp.
In breaking down these two banks for a third reason, the reason that really puts US Bancorp over the top over Banco Santander in our recommendation is based on the initiatives. US Bancorp just had more initiatives involving education for many people. They have invested in an app called Goal Setter, which provides families with help and educating them on what financial services to use. They've also participated in a mentorship program and led a conversation series on this subject and really helping the next generation of bankers in the future. So for these reasons and the reasons that David listed in for our presentation today, we believe at the end of the day that in terms of these two banks, you guys should invest in US Bancorp for the future in terms of helping financially the world itself and the next generation of bankers. So thank you guys for your time. Enjoy.